Everyone, the CANDU Sports Show. Got your hosts, Scott Blair and
Donray Bennett, good morning to you. Good afternoon, good day, whatever time it is that you are watching this. How you doing?
I'm good. We got a little bit of everything to talk about. We got WNBA finals, we got Major League Baseball, precipice of a World Series, and we're almost at the midway point of the NFL season. So I'm good. How you feeling? Where do you want to start?
I don't care, considering my teams are all, you know. Let's start with, well, first let's start with, the Yankees clinched their first bid to the World Series in a long time.
15 years.
You're a
Dang.
Yankee fan. Let me give you a little runway to do your walk, to do your thing, talk your talk. What'd you see? It was great to see some of that money pay off with the big names doing big things. But
First,
what was your takeaway from the ALCS?
first time in a minute since that's come together. Um, wow. I was waiting for the team to do what it had done during the regular season, which is to not show up, for pitching to collapse. And it really, for the most part, it didn't. The bats came alive when they needed to. And one player in particular showed up, and he was the one who was probably challenged the most coming into the season to produce, and that's Giancarlo Stanton. And I mean, he won, of course, the ALCS MVP, for good reason, because he was there when they needed him. And then, of course, um, Juan Soto came through in another pivotal moment, and
Mhm.
now he's another Yankee legend himself. And everyone's still waiting on Aaron Judge because it is what it is. When the calendar flips to October, when it's no longer the regular season and it turns to the playoffs, he doesn't show up. I think he's batting like 185 so far in the playoffs. He didn't do well the previous years in the playoffs, but he's got reinforcements now. It doesn't have to just be him. He's got Soto, he's got Stanton, he's got Venezuelan's own Gleyber Torres, and a couple others in relief. So I'm interested to see who the matchup's going to be in the World Series because I think you still got, I know you're not going to watch, but generally speaking, from a baseball perspective, I think you have two compelling storylines with a Subway
Absolutely.
Series if it's the Mets or the biggest rivalry in Major League Baseball history, Dodgers Yankees. So, which we
Yeah.
haven't seen in what, 40 years probably. So,
Yeah, no, it's good for baseball and the market and things of that nature. One thing I will give to Judge is if Judge isn't there, Soto's not getting the pitches he's getting.
true,
He's not getting pitched to with
true.
two outs and two
Stand
on
too.
in the tenth. You know what I mean? Like he's not even getting those pitches. So um any other lineup, you're probably pitching around Soto or literally giving him nothing to hit.
Yeah, it's fair.
Um, but you have to, even though it's righty or righty, because he had a history of just took him yard a couple games ago or recently. Um,
True.
so yeah, well, it's good to see that. And
No,
as
it's
much as I
not. Be real. It's not good to
well,
see that.
here's where I'll play devil advocate to myself, right?
Okay.
Because I used to complain about, some teams having huge payrolls, others don't, and I'd always root for the underdog. But in reality, if I want if I'm a fan of equity, then billionaires maximizing profit over trying to win makes no sense. And so if big payroll teams are the ones that are winning, then maybe it encourages other owners to step it up and start, trying to at least give their teams a fighting chance of winning. Now, of course, Detroit Tigers are the outlier, but
Right.
generally speaking,
And the
it's good to
Royals.
see.
Royals had a
And
good
the
run.
Royals, you're right. Yeah. But it's great to see teams invested in invest in winning and win. So big markets, you know, Major League Baseball would love to have Shohei Ohtani in the World Series,
Against Aaron
East
Judge, yeah.
Coast, East Coast, West Coast. It's everything. So I'm sure they're pulling for the Dodgers, but they can't lose, right?
Right.
If you got a Subway Series, you got the Mets.
Especially when you think about what they had last year. I think you hard pressed to find a majority of people who could tell you who was even in the World Series last
Oh
year.
god.
Right?
Yeah,
Texas,
I tuned
Arizona.
out
So
as soon as Arizona beat, as soon as the Phils collapsed. Um, yeah, it was tough. I mean, it's good to see those two, but you always nobody wants them both to be there. Somebody wants one to root for. Then you got to have a Goliath in there. You can't have two Davids because then you're like, ah.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Two
uh,
Davids from two super, yeah, just well, yeah. I got nothing else to add.
see,
Okay.
when I know because when you have to when if you're truly of the I don't care model, then you start looking at, for me at least, I start looking at the fan bases. I'm like, I could care less. Texas Rangers, I don't remember them ever
Yeah,
winning, and
then there's that too.
Arizona Diamondbacks, I don't remember them ever winning. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, like 20 some years ago with when they had Schilling, and so you start saying you're like, eh. But then I started thinking I was like Texas, Arlington, is that are those Cowboy fans? Like it was pretty easy for me. Um, it wasn't easy, I shouldn't say that, but
This isn't the iteration of the Rangers that I wanted to cheer for in the World Series anyways. Give me Juan Gonzalez, give me Pudge Rodriguez.
oh my goodness, Pudge, my favorite of all time. Yeah,
So,
yeah, that was a good squad.
yeah,
Remember Juan Gonzalez had 170 something RBI, but he had 100 and something by like um All-Star break. Like he was on pace for 250 or something. It was crazy how many RBI he had at one of the All-Star breaks. I think it was 95. It was crazy. Anyway, all
all the
right.
good stuff.
So okay, so your Yanks are in. Kudos to you. Best of luck. Who do you think they're gonna face?
I think they've got the Dodgers. I think the Mets are done. I think they gave it a good run. Um, Still can't believe that they're there over the Phillies. That's not to rub salt in the wound. I wanted a Yankees Phillies World Series personally, because I wanted it. Like, bring it, let's go. I was in Syracuse the last time that happened, so it would have been fun to experience that in Philly. Plus, I need some good juju after the double doink with my Bears. So, um, but yeah, I think it's Dodgers Yankees. I think it's what Major League Baseball needs. And wow, Shohei, Judge, Stanton, Soto. Is Kershaw still playing? I don't even know. Let's go. Let's go. And Dave
Yeah.
Roberts, because he was on that 2004 Red Sox team. So it's an opportunity to take out some
Uh,
revenge on him. So let's go.
memories on point. You don't forget anything.
I don't
Sheesh.
forget anything. So
All right.
yeah, all good
Beautiful.
stuff.
All right. Well, let's switch it up. Let's switch it up. There's a championship, winner take all scenario
Mm.
in the WNBA. I love a game five in this case, but I love these types of games, no matter what the sport. Just the when it's over. It's the last game. So you play all these games, and it comes down to this when the biggest stage of that you could ask for. I know.
Some
One of the
technical
biggest things that you
difficulties
could
are
ask for. Technical difficulties, folks, relax. Biggest stage you could ask for. It's been a heck of a series in the WNBA. What have you seen? And who do you got for the Sunday finale?
I've seen two things. Let me first start by re-articulating. You know what? All right. Everyone come into Coach Blair's office real quick. I want to stop talk a little bit about the state of the WNBA because I've seen a whole lot of nonsense from folks and I'm tired of it, right? It's the nonsense about, oh, now Caitlin Clark's good. Let's celebrate Caitlin Clark. We knew she was good at the beginning of the season. That's why we told you all she should be on the Olympic team, but you wanted to tell us it was, no, she wasn't quite good enough. Like, no, 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 she was good. She didn't all of a sudden go from June to September, all of a sudden, right? She led the league in three-pointers made. She led the league in assists as a rookie. So there was all that noise around that. There's also how they, as a league, and I think even some of the folks around as commentators, have done a poor job talking about The state of the game when it comes to race relations. Quite frankly, I put this at the feet of the commissioner. I think she's done a bad job of calling it out to protect her players. Players have had to kind of call her out on a couple of occasions to say, hey, we saw you just do that interview yesterday. Like, how do you not bring up the fact that we keep getting um, these harassments from the fans? Like, there's all this stuff. And we talked about this at the beginning of the season. Is WNBA going to get this right? And I've seen too many examples this season where they've messed it up. They've messed it up. I don't have an answer. I'm just saying that it's a little disappointing. And the one thing that still remains, so Caitlin Clark's not around right now and all that stuff, right? The one thing that has continued to be a constant, along with those things that we just mentioned, is terrible officiating.
Mhm.
Awful. So now that we're sitting here in the finals, we see it again. I see a Jonquel Jones in game 4 with just a standard clean in the fourth quarter, just a beautiful post up, drop step baseline finish. She gets called for an offensive charge. What? No, that was just a good post move, right? There's more. Stewie getting a couple of ticky tacks. Cheryl Reeve took a page out of Phil Jackson and talking to the officials via the press the day before the game. That happens sometimes, kind of salty. But I'm really disappointed with the officiating. I've also seen some pretty bad basketball. I see players missing wide open layups. Um, it's like, come on, like there's those kind of things. And I'm also disappointed in Stewie. This is the second or third playoffs year in which two this year and last year where critical moments she's not showing up. Last year against the Aces, she's not showing up. Here we go, game 4. It's there for you. I forgot her stat line, but her shooting percentage was awful. If it wasn't for Jonquel Jones, they're not even in the game. So that's my thought. I'm a little worried. I think as a Liberty fan and as a Liberty household, I think the Lynx are going to win this in New York. I just don't have confidence in New York in
Really?
making. I don't have confidence in New York making the play when it counts in a crunch situation in crunch time. I just don't. I just don't. If Ionescu comes and this is what I told you, I think last week, if Ionescu comes through and she's splashing three-pointers left and right, well, then that squashes everything. But I don't have faith. I think Minnesota wins.
Wow. Yeah, well, we can't have
I hope I'm wrong, and I
New
don't think
York
I will
winning
be.
too many championships these days. So, um, yeah, I have no dog in the fight, as it were. I do.
Should I say that? If the Liberty win, just make sure the Yankees win the World Series.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I know. Right? Come on, pick your poison. Choose one. Um, yeah, I don't have much to add on that. I do. I'm a big Nafisa fan, so
Yeah, same.
it'd be.
UConn in the
Besides
house.
that, but yeah, right. Besides that, I'm just hoping for a good game,
Yeah.
and that the refs aren't the story, or that they don't dictate the story. So, well, that's good. That's good. Shout out to all the first teamers and everything, and Caitlin Clark getting the what should have been unanimous Rookie of the Year
Yeah.
and
Can we talk
whatnot.
about, do we know who that one person was that didn't vote for her? Like, come on. Who? Who?
Does Cheryl Swoops have a vote? I mean, I don't know. Uh, it's craziness. But she also made first team, so
Yeah.
that speaks more volumes than the unanimous Rookie of the Year,
In
anyway.
the words of Tony Kornheiser to Cheryl Swoops, eat it. So
And I hate that because Swoops was my favorite player growing up. I loved her. I was in love with her, and then Tisha Pinachero.
yeah,
Um,
ooh, yeah, she was
but
outstanding.
yeah, that's an Old Dominion point guard. But to hear her,
Oh, the
to hear,
youngins, know your
yeah,
history.
we all know about the Monarchs down there. But no, so shout out to her and everyone else who did their thing and earned. Um, it's setting up. Let's see how they build. Let's see how this year finishes out. And then hopefully they do the build up right and better with a lot more time and whatnot. To work on a branding, uh, whether it's a motto or whether it's a mantra or some sort of branding that will stick and invigorate a fan base to follow off season, pay attention, and then go into next year even stronger. So
Yeah, and I'm just I'm still of the thought that more than one thing can be true, that people and players appreciate Caitlin Clark, but that some of them, and they should have been targeting her. Let's just be honest about this. That's why I kind of don't like the fact that it's been kind of handled the way it's been. You should have been targeting her. You know why? 'Cause she's really, really, really good. And she's coming in as a rookie, and you just kind of want to, hey, we see you. We're going to make
Right.
sure that you see us too. Like that's kind of what happens, right? So there's nothing wrong. And Tarazi even said that before the season started. But then once we
Hmm.
start seeing some stuff that maybe seemed to be a little extra, it's like, oh, no, 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 no. What are you talking about? We're not going after.
Hmm.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
think that she did all this in the midst of this, and now she's going to have a full off season to train, I can't wait to see what she and hopefully the Fever can build a team and see what they look like.
I mean, they made huge strides in 1 year, so
Yeah.
I imagine they will. And the teammates, I'm sure they will. So, um,
Can we talk about a second for some of the coaches that have been let go? Because two of them were a surprise. Trammell, I believe, coach down with the Dallas Wings. And they've been a good team. This year they were absolutely decimated with injuries. Sabally was hurt, was out for quite a while. Was also playing for I think was it the German Olympic team I think, and they had a really bad year. But she's a good coach, and to just let her be, I don't quite understand that. And then I think it's Coach Miller. He was with the Sparks, I believe, was also let go. And again, they were doing all right. And then once Cameron Brink got hurt, and now they're going to probably get Paige Beckers with the number one pick in the draft. So
yeah,
maybe they're rebooting for that reason. I don't know. Um, Spoon in Chicago after just 1 year, interesting, curious. There were some things about that team that kind of makes you go, hmm. So maybe that's why they made some changes. But Miller and Trammell, Dallas and L.A. respectively, just was interesting decisions considering how bad they were hit with injuries.
yeah. I can't comment too much on those. I will say, in Chicago, I think it's rare that you give someone a year. Well, I've never been a fan of giving anyone a year, and judging it on that. So whenever that happens, I always tend to lean towards it was non-basketball related. Um,
Personalities
not
with
seeing,
players or something.
yeah, not seeing eye to eye with administration or something. You know what I mean? I don't know that it's the product that occurred. Yes, they went from a playoff team to a non-playoff team, so that could play a role. But
They weren't. No, I don't. They weren't a playoff team last year before. No,
were they?
no. There's a reason why they had two top picks in the draft.
Yeah, but
No,
I thought they got one through the. Are you
no.
sure?
I'm pretty sure Chicago Sky were not in the playoffs. If they were like bottom seed. They were not
All
any
right.
good.
I'll default to you. You definitely have watched it closer than I do. But they definitely took a step back. Um, but I think it had to do with I think they were just not it has to do with management and whatnot. I just can't think. I can't imagine you give someone 1 year. That doesn't make any sense.
That's fair.
So, um, are you looking it up?
According to the CANDU research department, they were the eighth seed in the playoffs last season, but
Right.
they had a sub 500 record.
500. Right.
They were 18 and
Right.
22, and they lost to the Aces in the first round.
Yeah, that was my
So
thing
they
when
weren't any good.
I thought that was the case. I wasn't sure how good they were, but I knew they weren't great. But I thought they made it because when Cheryl Swoops first was making her comments, I was like, one player took their team from out of the playoffs into it, and the other players on a team that because her point was, you got to win, and
Yeah,
at one of the times she was talking on Bill's Arena, and and in my mind I'm like, that doesn't make any. What you're saying is literally speaking to her.
yeah.
Like
Caitlin
it's a
Clark's.
team game.
Yeah,
It's a team game anyway. So I don't want to hear all this. But if that's your point is actually opposite. In one
yeah,
case, the team is out of the playoffs, and the other case, and at the time it wasn't over, but in terms of the playoff race, and the other team is in it. Like, what are we talking about?
yeah.
Anyway, I digress.
Not
So
all. Yeah, yeah. You said it. I won't add to it.
so yeah, but So there that is. All right. And I mean, hockey hasn't started yet. We're just getting the preseason done. It actually gets started this week, I
Yeah,
believe.
it started
Um,
last week with hockey, but it's early yet. And the
yeah.
Blackhawks still stink, so
Uh,
I don't care.
So, but getting into the NFL before we close this out, right? You know, we can go anywhere. There's a lot of things happening, but my biggest question to you is
The answer is yes.
there's no there's no coach I respect more in any sport than Mike Tomlin. But if they in fact go with Russell Wilson,
Oh, that's it. I didn't think you were going to ask me that.
yeah, I need to know I mean, what are your thoughts? How I don't question, Hall of Fame. I don't question professional coaches in decision making like this when you're not on, behind closed doors, 24/7, da da da. But I need to understand this one. Why? Why do you do this?
Okay. So, right, I don't have my credentials from coaching football, right? I got them from coaching hoops. But, and I need to remove the love that I have still a little bit for Justin Fields from this. I don't understand it. I don't. I would ride Justin Fields if he were to stink it up this week or next week and you lose and he had a really bad performance. And we know what that looks like because we've seen him 3 years prior with the Bears. We know what a bad Justin Fields game looks like. Has he had some? That Cowboys game was pretty rough. He did not look real good in that Cowboys game, for example. Um, then I would, okay, you know what? Now, his thing might be, listen, we've seen 6 games. You're throwing for 100 and some yards every game. We've won four, we've lost two. Eh, we're throwing Russell. I get that, but I also don't get that. Um, the one thing, though, that Tomlin has shown us is he doesn't care about the what if, because a lot of the talking heads are saying, well, what if Russell Wilson goes out there and he looks awful like he did with Denver, and that's why Sean Payton just ran him out of town, and then you got to bring Justin Field, you got to eat crow. Mike Tomlin doesn't care about that. Mike
Yeah, I
Tomlin's
agree.
thinking more of, I'm going to put Russell Wilson out there and he's going to do really well. And he's going to help us hit on some things in the passing game that Justin wasn't doing. So, from that perspective, I get it. But I am also trying to be realistic about what I have seen from Russell Wilson in the last year or two,
Yeah.
who's a, what, 38-year-old, 37-year-old quarterback with an offensive line that's pretty suspect. So, I'd rather. I'd rather ride with Justin for another game or two, see when if he struggles again, then okay, then then we go. Because right now, I think the one thing that worries me is Justin Fields' confidence. Because when I'm hearing him say in a press conference, "Yeah, I didn't really play well enough," and yeah, I guess it's Russell Wilson's time. Dude's relegated back to being a backup, and that worries me if you're going to need him. That worries me if you're going to need him if Russell Wilson stinks to join up.
Or play little devil's advocate. Maybe he was looking forward to this opportunity coming to Pittsburgh because he had great coaching, tradition, history, support, and a veteran to finally look up to and watch how it's done. I mean, he got thrown right into the fire,
Fair,
and so maybe he was actually,
that's fair.
looking forward to less pressure, no pressure,
And being
really,
coached,
just learning.
that's fair. That's
And
fair.
instead of getting that, he had to go right back into the fire, which his competitive nature appreciates. But if he's a smart kid, maybe he's like, I I I was looking forward to this opportunity because
I could
I
watch
was
you
going
play.
to get mentored and learn and
That's
converse.
fair.
And
That's
so,
fair. But I'm also thinking about it through the lens of they're both on a 1 year contract. So
so
they're both playing for their job. So we'll see.
that's very true. That's
But
very true.
but at the end of the day, it comes back to the age old phrase. If you got two quarterbacks, you don't have one.
Yep.
And that's what I think we have with Pittsburgh. That division's not any good. Cleveland's awful. Cincinnati, where are you? Two teams that are probably going to be looking for new coaches. Pittsburgh's a team in transition at their quarterback position. We'll see what they look like. Maybe they're a borderline wild card team. And then Baltimore. they're going to win the division like they always do. So
Yeah. But with seven playoff teams these days, everyone's still in it to the, I mean, 9 and 7's,
even the Eagles got a
make it so.
chance.
Yeah. The Eagles are going to win the division.
That was
Well,
that's for
Commanders have
Damien.
a shot,
That's for
but
Damien. HDJ, we see you.
yeah. Oh man. Anything else in the NFL world that you like to touch on?
Football wise, it was a quiet weekend. Syracuse, Penn State, and the Bears are all on bye. So we will do a quick shout out to college, right? Texas taken down by Georgia, Alabama taken down by Rocky Top, by Tennessee, by the Vols. Big win. I think I saw Maryland beat USC.
Maryland
Holy
came back to beat
cow.
USC. What this is showing you, here's by the way, I'm glad
Showing you
you brought
how
this up
bad the
because
Pac-12
I
is.
I was against, well, it's recorded, right? We have a history of me talking about how against I'm a traditionalist and how against I was all these large conferences and why is Michigan having they're not students anymore. If you're going to have them going to the West Coast to play a game every other week and da da da. The one good part about this, which I didn't realize, is every week you're getting these huge matchups that typically you'd see one or two of them in a
January,
year,
and you'd see them
right?
only in January.
But you have Ohio State at Oregon. You have, you've got your
Georgia,
Texas,
Texas, yeah.
Georgia, and you've got the posers being exposed, right? You've got USC losing to Maryland. You've got Rutgers taking down some of these teams. You've got not that they're terrible teams, but the reality is the mediocre Big Ten and SEC teams are can take on these top, you know, Big 12 slash Pac 10, Pac 12 teams. You're seeing really where they're at and why January always works itself out the way it does.
Yeah, it usually does.
And so I'm liking that every week there's these big, huge matchups that it just hasn't happened before. And you don't realize with tradition just how rare, Michigan played USC, even though they're two of the most storied, institutions in the game, or UCLA, or it's pretty dope to see all this happening. So I'm going to eat a little bit of crow. I still think it's a violation to call them student athletes when you don't care about their student side. But I do, from a football standpoint, love the matchups week in and week
Yeah.
out. Um, I do think with 12 teams, it's good to have these matchups because it's entertaining.
Right.
Mainly because most of them don't matter. I mean, all you got to do with 12 teams making it. I think your Alabamas can lose 3 games and they're still going to make the tournament.
They better not. So after losing to the Vols and losing to Vanderbilt, I hope we don't see them again the rest of the season. But I have a bad feeling.
Crazy.
I have a bad feeling that what you said is going to be, unless Ole Miss, Notre Dame. Shout out to Indiana, James Madison's old
All he
coach.
does is win. Google me.
Damn, damn.
Google me.
And as long
That
as
man
Penn
is a
and as long as
beast.
Penn State doesn't screw it up, we got to give a special shout out to Illinois because they had the best uniforms of the entire season this weekend with the
So
throwback
yeah,
leatherhead helmets. So
shout out to them, and shout out to Coach Prime and what he's doing. They got 5 wins, 1 win away from a bowl berth for the first time since
Cordell Stewart,
1876. Um, I love what he's doing there, man. I'm pulling for them. That's really must see TV. That's who I'm riding behind and pulling for. Yeah, and unfortunately, James Madison took an L to Georgia Southern.
yeah,
Wasn't expecting that. I thought they were
got
going to
two
run the
now.
table, but they can get right back on that horse and make a run towards the end of this year. Coach
Yeah,
Chesney, we're with you.
two tough losses, Louisiana Monroe and then to the Georgia Southern yesterday. So hopefully they bounce back.
Yeah,
Any closing thoughts?
just hoping for an entertaining, hoping that Game 5 of the WNBA Finals it lives up to hype, hoping that whatever the Series matchup is, I'm just looking for good entertainment. Um,
Okay.
and and
Oh,
and I have nothing to say about any of my home teams. I don't know what the Sixers are doing. I don't know what the Eagles are doing, and the Phils. Gotta wait 365 days before anything matters anyway. So that's where I'm at. A little dejected when it comes to sports, but appreciative of the time we're living in. How about you?
I like that. Shout out to Fat Joe. I think he's like the halftime performer at the Liberty game. I saw that in my email, which is
Okay.
pretty cool. Um, I'm interested in this Texans Packers game today. So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. The
Ooh,
Texans, a lot of folks, right, are that's the cream rising to the top in the AFC. Let's see how they do in Lambeau. Um, and I'm pushing a little bit for your Eagles because I'd like to see an Eagles Bears playoff matchup just because I need to get that 2018 out of me.
you keep seeking revenge. You got to watch out what you're asking for. I'm
I
just
need
letting you
it.
know.
I need it. Hey, I should have bought that Fog Bowl t-shirt I saw when I was at Soldier Field last year,
That's
but
the
that's
that is the single most hurtful thing to ever happen in this world. That everyone knows that was the greatest. That team would have won a Super Bowl. I'm not even going to talk about this. The Fall Bowl is a travesty
it
on
was a
human
travesty.
society. Hey, before we get going,
Kawhi Leonard, you
how
need to
about the
retire.
let me ask you this last question. I know it's a little off script, but what do you think about the hire for the new expansion team out there in Golden
Oh,
State?
why wouldn't you hire one of the top assistants from the best program in the association, right? Bringing her in from the Aces to start up the Golden State Valkyries, which I think is a fantastic name, by the
Love the
way.
name. I love
Uh,
the name. I
right?
love the name. Absolutely.
Absolutely love it. Love the color scheme, like the whole thing. I'm here for it. So I'm also just hoping that when they name their last team for the expansion, you and I talk about this all the time, that it's finally going to be in Philadelphia because they've never
Well,
had.
with the new arena, I mean, that's even more reason to do so. Come on, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, although I'm not a fan of the idea of putting it downtown Philly,
No, it's the
but
worst
yeah,
idea. It's literally the worst idea I've probably
yeah.
ever heard in my life.
Just build it in one of the parking lots across from where the Wells Fargo is now and
Well,
call it a day. But
South Philly is made for these events.
yeah,
Anyone in or around Philly will tell you what how ridiculous it is to get in and out of games with all that space down there. Now you're going to put it in Center City where on a regular Tuesday afternoon, night, it could be 4 in the morning. There is ridiculous traffic. So I get it. Public transportation is going to be the only way in and out. No one's going to be driving to these games. It's silly to even think that you would. But now that's a whole nother level of
so dumb,
security and come on, what are we doing? I can't
so dumb,
believe this is happening.
so
I,
dumb.
if it wasn't an old historical city where you can do things and knock things down and create space and do like Indianapolis did, okay. But it's not. You can't touch anything down there. Everything is historical. So how are you even going to begin
You're
to
not. You're not.
host anything?
It's hard enough just to get into the Reading Terminal Market, let alone to try and get to a basketball game down there. Yeah, forget about
It's
it.
going to be all subway. It's going to be all subway, regional rail to the subway. Like there's no way you're taking any type of motor transportation there.
And who wants to do that?
Well, you're not going to have a choice. You're not going to have a
That's
choice.
that's dumb. It's just
So
it's not even that it's dumb, is that you don't have the capacity to do that with your rail system. That's the problem. So if it
I
was
mean,
New York, different story. But
right. Well, I mean, we had the subway works. The problem is it only goes one way.
yeah,
It goes north south on Broad Street. So it's not like it's going. I mean, we got regional rails that can take you to subway, but that's going to be a cluster. Like when we had the parade and everything, we you couldn't drive anywhere down there. So we parked up in Cheltenham where I used to live. Me and my brother and I, we got in. We had to we took the bus to the subway. The rails were all packed. You couldn't get on the train, so then we had to drive and then take the subway. The subway was packed, so we got on but it was crazy.
we got to take our bicycles down. That's how we're going to do it. Just
All
go
right.
bike down.
Anyway,
But yeah,
all right. So
shout out to Coach Natalie out in Golden State.
yes,
Congratulations. The
absolutely.
Valkyries. Valkyries. We got
Yeah,
to have a Marvel shout out. If you're doing the Valkyries, come on.
yeah, absolutely.
You got to have
No,
Tessa Thompson. So
I'm sure they'll come up with something. Mm, mm.
great
That's
movie. Great
that's a pretty.
movie. Her and Thor, cool tandem. Good team.
Yeah, she's definitely a superhero crush if if you got eyes. Anyway, all right. So great episode. Any other remarks? Anything we left out?
Again,
Anything on pause?
Kawhi Leonard, we love you, but take care of your health, man. I think you got to start talking about retirement. Be good to your body.
Which
Other,
means that those future picks for the Sixers could be lottery. Not that I'm hoping that he retires, but I mean, health first. All right, brother. Till next time.
good to see everyone. Peace and love.